one thing structurally, they screwed themselves up by trying to go direct to consumers, open a bunch of stores. Turns out Nike's not very good at retail. So now they're going back into the retailers and trying to make up for it there. But that's just kind of shoveling sales from one channel to another. And the end result is there's a little stick in terms of moving from one channel to the other. They're having to mark down goods on their direct to consumer side while they sell stuff at retailers. That makes it harder for the retailers to sell things full price. And you end up right where you started, with a bunch of stuff in the discount bin with nothing moving sales. And they just seem tired. They've had Caitlin Clark under contract for 2 years. There is no Caitlin Clark shoe. And so
Yeah,
everyone
you've
says, oh,
mentioned this.
Nike's.
You've mentioned this for like 6 months and a year or so.
The
Like I
fact that I've
still
been able
can't.
to
I
mention
still
this for
can't
about the
believe
last
that.
6 months or a year, it's just baffling. And all you hear is, oh, go woke or go broke. They're so hip. She's the most famous athlete in ages in America. In a world where there are no great American female tennis players, no one's really following the golfers all that closely. Caitlin Clark is it. She is all that in a bag of chips. You spend millions to have her under contract, and you don't make the woman a shoe. And so are
Yeah.
you woke because it seems like you give her a shoe, or are you just stupid, in which case it seems like you would just be focusing on selling Jordan stuff to a bunch of soccer fans? It seems like the latter is the case, and that's a big problem. So you got a lot of folks on the street giving up on them today. Does that make for a washout? Well, you wash it out down here, and it's gone from 34 times forward earnings to, with the guide down of earnings and the price reduction, to about 33 times forward earnings. Awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
it's that doesn't get me super excited when there's no turnaround in line. It's like the price of gas. As long as it's going higher, people move away. As long as your earnings are going lower, your turnaround story is just kind of crap. It's, if you're telling me the next 6 months are going to be garbage, but we're going to turn it around after that. Well, you've said that now for 18 straight months. If you're the management there, and people are right to give up on it. It's you, and that's one rule of these bear markets, is you have people giving up on sort of the beloved names they've been clinging to, and the idea that this is going to be a turnaround. It's down 14% today. Was the quarter that bad? I don't know, because I kind of thought they were really bad before this, so it's not like they said anything that particularly shocked me.
It's
But
really surprising though.
it's
So
washing out.
yeah, I just pulled up their press release, and North America down 11%, Middle East 7% growth, China 11% growth, but down 20% year over year. So that's probably either, I mean, it could be stuffing, who knows, but it also could be an easy comp. But the U.S. is twice the size of China, so that doesn't so much matter. Latin America down 4%, global down 11%. Converse is somehow down 203%. I don't know how that works. It's actually negative, but that's it doesn't sound like such a great report. So is it fair to say like Restoration Hardware and Nike falling knives for you, that you're just not touching
Oh,
until anything, like,
absolutely
or
not.
are you shorting them here?
No, I'm wishing I was short them. It's these are just a question of how bad the news is going to be responded to. Again, there's two parts of this game. One is you got to have a pretty good guess how bad the numbers are going to be. That part was relatively easy if you're a cynic and weren't a fan to begin with. People that have been long the stock have been waiting for, again, any sign. You just sort of need the negativity to asymptote it flat. You don't need it to go back up. You just need it to stop going lower so fast. And they weren't able to pull that off. They pushed back any growth potential for the next few quarters at least. I'm a big fan of new CEOs. I love, a name like Target that actually does have a low multiple, and I think good things are going on. I think they're making smart moves, and I think it's easier to turn them around because they aren't encumbered by so much of a brand as they are just an execution aspect of it. And it's easier to improve a store in some ways than it is to kind of exhume Michael Jordan and make him a big deal again. Nike just seems lost, and
Yeah.
that's going to get people to sell. But what I worry about it for as a harbinger of quarters to come is the fact that the reason you're not seeing people come to buy in the dip right now is it's really hard to answer the question, okay, at $6 a barrel for gas in California, not much lower than that in the rest of the country, are people really going to be coming in to get those retro shoes? Do they really need, the new high-end kicks? Nope, not really. They're going to go for the discounts. And man, margins are not so good in the discount bin. So,
Yep.
which was another problem that Nike has. And again, there's just not really any signs of improvement, and the stock still isn't cheap. That's a tough recipe to get people to buy the dip. And so, what you're seeing today is a lot of throwing in the towel. Normally, that would make you want to kind of get your contrarian, your ears perking up. You might do it for a trade, but the best case reports that we've had, Williams Sonoma, sharp contrast to Restoration Hardware, reported really terrific execution in the context of this tape. You saw a 7% bounce and it was gone by a week later. So no one can answer the question, what are you going to do in a softening consumer environment? Now, the consumer, to their credit, I guess, it hasn't really buckled yet in terms of what you're seeing in spending. You're seeing kind of echoes of it, but you always can if you're looking hard enough to see, bad polls, bad whatever. They haven't stopped spending in earnest yet, but again, they're going to crack. You need
Mhm.
something. You need something to change. You need that price of gas to stop just moving inexorably higher, or else you're going to start to see it pretty fast. And as you can see from, if you look up at the gas prices versus the consumer discretionary over the last month, you're seeing down 10% for consumer discretionary, up 40% for gas prices. That's not a coincidence. That's just what you do. You guys both are stock people. With gas prices moving higher, you sell your consumer discretionary. Those things just happen.
Yeah, so just to wrap up on, I want to revisit Restoration Hardware for a quick second. It sounds like what you've described is they have a lot of issues, right? It's not just one issue. Why, if you and I and Bob and people who've seen companies like this before, it seems very obvious. You shouldn't be running a cafe. That's not your business. Not your strength. Your hotel or whatever you call these rental
Your
things,
housing
apartments.
developments, your
Yeah,
airline rental business, your yacht experiences. No, all those things are
it's
bad. They sell furniture out of a castle, David. It's not a clean business model.
so why is it so obvious to anyone but not to them? And is it like, okay, if they clean that up, it's still a good business, or no, they also have in their core furniture business their problems. So get rid of that stuff. That's one step, but that's not going to solve it.
Gary Friedman's pulled a few rabbits out of hats in the past, and so he still gets a lot of credit for that. He's credited as a visionary in some ways. It's not entirely undeserved. He's done some great things in a bubble economy. It's a super business to sell expensive furniture for people's second homes. It's a nice idea. He famously, that stock went from 100 the last time it was this low to over 700 during COVID as people, kind of nested down. The prices of their homes went up, and that's an incredibly lucrative and short squeezing, crushing business. I don't know why it's obvious to him. Their business model's been super hard to explain. He has the ever shrinking cult. He's just a charismatic leader who has a one trick and does it really well. Loves to squeeze shorts, delights in the idea. It's a couple quarters ago the stock ripped 30%, and he was cackling and having a great time. Not so much yesterday.